amazing person.
When it's green, you're on.
Okay. Hello. Hello. Good evening, everyone. We are going to get started now. Can you hear me okay? The Houston People's hearing of the Texas Legislative Progressive Caucus will come to order. The chair notes presence of members, invited guests, witnesses, and members of the public. Welcome to the People's hearing. My name is State Representative Christina Morales, and I proudly represent Texas House District 145. It is my honor to serve as chair for tonight's hearing. On behalf of the Texas Legislative Progressive Caucus, welcome and thank you for joining us. Bienvenidos. Gracias por acompañarnos esta noche. Esta audiencia también es para ustedes, porque su voz, sus experiencias y sus historias son fundamentales para el trabajo que hacemos como legisladores. Tonight's hearing is a part of a statewide effort to hear directly from Texans about the issues affecting their families, jobs, businesses, and communities. What we hear tonight will help inform our work in Austin and the policies we pursue during the next legislative session. Houston is one of the hardest working and most diverse cities in America. Every day, our neighbors build our homes, care for our families, teach our children, and run our small businesses and keep our economy moving. But despite working harder than ever, too many Texans feel like they're falling behind. Families are struggling with the rising costs of living, from housing to groceries to healthcare and childcare. Small businesses are facing higher costs. Employees are struggling to fill jobs, and too many Texans are wondering what the future holds for their families. These are the conversations happening around the kitchen tables in Houston, and that's why we're here tonight. The Texas Legislative Progressive Caucus believes the people most affected by our laws is at the table. Before policies are debated in Austin, we should hear first from the Texans living with those consequences every day, with their consequences every day. Over the past several weeks, our community has also experienced uncertainty and fear surrounding immigration enforcement. For a city like Houston, where immigrants are neighbors, our coworkers, entrepreneurs, and essential to our workforce, those concerns don't just affect individual families, they affect workers, employers, small businesses, and local economy. That's why immigration and workforce issues are part of tonight's conversation. Tonight, we'll hear from labor leaders, small business owners, legal experts, advocates, and most importantly, members of the public. We may not all agree on every solution, but we all benefit from when we listen to one another and learn from the people living these experiences every day. So thank you for taking the time to be here tonight and joining us. We're going to hear directly from the people that we serve. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize our staff that put this amazing event together, Hector Beltran, and I know Max is here somewhere. What is Max's last name? Shannon. We also have joining us this evening folks from Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher's office and Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia's office. Thank you so much for being here. And also someone from Senator Alvarado's office. Thank you for being here as well. Thank you to the Harris County Department of Education for graciously hosting us here in this amazing building. The staff of the Texas Legislative Progressive Caucus, Cody, I saw her here somewhere too. Didn't want to forget her and the volunteers. Thank you for your hard work and dedication. Ms. Carmen Nuncio and Manuel, both serving today as volunteers. We appreciate you. So let's talk about the format for tonight. This evening, we'll hear from 3 invited panels: labor and working Texans, small business and economic opportunity, immigration, and the workforce. Each witness will have up to 3 minutes for testimony. Following each panel, members will have an opportunity to ask questions before we move on to the next discussion. And I have these reminders to keep us on time because there's many people who want to speak. Following our invited panels, we'll hear public testimony depending on the number of speakers, and remarks may be limited to 1 minute, so everyone has an opportunity to be heard. So if you haven't already signed up to testify and you just got here, please visit the registration table at the front of the room so we can, and scan the QR code so we can list you. Written testimony may also be submitted using the same form. The QR code is also on your seats, I believe. So for your awareness, tonight's People's Hearing is being live streamed and recorded by the Texas Legislative Progressive Caucus. Both oral and written testimony submitted as part of the hearing will help inform the caucus's 2027 policy platform and potential legislation for the upcoming legislative session. Your voice matters, and we appreciate your participation. To learn more about the Legislative Progressive Caucus, please visit the texaslpc.org or follow the caucus on social media for updates on this hearing and future events. And again, thank you all for being here. So now I would like to recognize my colleague, Representative Vicki Goodwin of Travis County, to say a few words and introduce herself.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be here tonight. I am Vicki Goodwin. I'm the state representative from the Austin area, House District 47. I am also running to be the next Texas Lieutenant Governor. So in that capacity, I have been traveling the state and listening to people from all over the state, whether it's county, city, country, urban, rural, to understand the impacts of what the Texas legislature is doing on their lives, and to let them know what we, particularly in the Progressive Caucus, hope to do. My focus is often on supporting our public schools, fixing our broken healthcare system, addressing affordability and water issues. But I just want to extend my feelings, my heartfelt sorrow for what has happened here in Houston with Lorenzo Salgado. His death by ICE is a tragedy that we must condemn. I've also had opportunities to speak with others around the state. Heather Alambarno, whose husband is Venezuelan, was detained, and she is a teacher, a school teacher, who without his salary was not able to keep her home. She lost her home. So this issue not only impacts us in a humanitarian way, but in an economic way. And we are here to listen first. But I will tell you that the stories that I've heard have really had a big impact. And I hope that next session, I will be able to have a large influence on making some significant changes here in the state of Texas. So thank you all for being here tonight, taking time out of your schedules to share with us what's important to you, what's happening in your communities, to help educate us so that we can come up with the best policy to help the average everyday Texans. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vicki. Representative Goodwin. Now I would like to recognize Representative Ana Maria Rodriguez Ramos of Dallas, who also serves as chair of our Texas Legislative Progressive Caucus.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Good evening. I'm Ana Maria Rodriguez Ramos, and I chair the Texas Legislative Progressive Caucus, which was founded by my colleagues Ron Reynolds and Jasmine Crockett, Congresswoman Crockett, who founded the Texas Legislative Progressive Caucus several sessions ago, because we believe that the elected officials in our government should be working to support the people. The government should be a force for public good and to advocate for policies that for economic improvement, for equal rights, for people's rights, and for workers' rights. So as the Texas Legislative Progressive Caucus, I want to thank you all once again. There are representatives in the Texas House and in the legislature who care what the community wants, who are willing to hear and open to hear about the community, the concerns about the community. You know, unfortunately, the leadership right now, the truth is, the leadership who has been in the leadership over 3 decades is focusing on annexing New Mexico and doubling vouchers in the state of Texas when so many working families are hurting, not only because of deaths in family, but closing schools, closing hospitals, denied health care. The list goes on and on. Gas taxes, gas, period, taxes. We know the list goes on and on. And in 25, 30 years, the party and leadership has done nothing to help mitigate this, has done nothing to help working families. We're here to tell you, as the Texas Legislative Progressive Caucus, we're listening, we're working really hard, and come election, we want you to fight with us so that we could be on the front line together, fighting back against these extreme policies. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative Rodriguez Ramos. And now I would like to recognize Representative Suleiman Lalani from Fort Bend County. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Vicky, here a little.
Good evening, everyone, and let me give a quick shout out
Oh, there you go.
to Representative Ana Maria Ramos, our chair for the caucus, and all the members for organizing this, and also shout out to our Representative Christina Morales for hosting us. Thank you for doing this. I'm Dr. Suleiman Lalani, House District 76 from Fort Bend, but I'm here to give a message that we all are in it together. You know, I'm here to listen to you all. I'm here to hear your concerns, and I'm also, more importantly, here to reassure that we all belong here. America's history is not written by few people. It's written by people like me and you, the veterans, the first responders, the teachers, the small business owners, parents, students, children, and people who are working 2 jobs still cannot catch the inflation. So when we write next chapter, make sure we write it with compassion, with peace and prosperity for all. I'm also here to give message to people in power. You just heard for 30 years, there's one party is in power. And when they don't have answers for inflation, when they don't have answers for affordable housing, when they don't have answers for our healthcare, what they want to do, they want to normalize the lies, they want to spread the fears, and they weaponize and threat the communities, right? And that's what they are doing. And I want to tell them, when they spew hate, it doesn't stop. It passes the door under the doormat of the household. It goes in the community. It goes into churches. It goes into school. It goes in the work areas. Is in the grocery stores. And people are not only leaving their livelihood, but they are dying. They're losing their lives. So thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Yes, thank you so much, Representative Dr. Lalani. Next, I want to recognize Representative Lauren Ashley Simmons of Harris County.
Thank you, Rep. Morales, and thank you to our caucus leadership for helping us convene this evening. I'm Representative Lauren Ashley Simmons. I proudly represent House District 146, smack dab in the middle of Houston. I'm also the founder and chairwoman of the Labor and Workforce Caucus in the Texas Legislature. If it affects working people, it's a labor issue. If our community members are too afraid to go to work because there's a rogue law enforcement agency making it dangerous and killing our people in the streets, that is a labor issue. I appreciate you guys being here this evening. Most often, our committee hearings and the opportunity to testify are inaccessible to most of our constituents. And for me, this part of the process is the most important, hearing directly from the people who elect us. Most of our constituents are unable to travel to Austin to do that. And oftentimes when they are able to travel to Austin, it's a very arduous process that takes long days. It takes a long time, and they have to often miss work and arrange childcare. So I really appreciate the opportunity for us to come directly to you. You see who's here on this panel and this dais. We don't run from our constituents. We bring the issues to you, and we want to hear from you. So thank you again for being here. And I know that this may be an emotional evening. We are here because we want to hear from you, but we also have to acknowledge the death and the life that was lost of Lorenzo Salgado. Arujo. And also, we have to lift up the family of the young student who was recently released from ICE custody. I know that was traumatic, and I really want to say thank you to Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher for leading those efforts and making sure that that young man was brought home safely.
Thank you so much, Representative Simmons. I now recognize Representative Ron Reynolds of Fort Bend County.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm super proud to be here with my colleagues. I want to thank Representative Morales. I want to say chair because she chairs the House Democratic Campaign Committee, and also Chair Ramos, who chairs our Progressive Caucus. When Congresswoman Crockett and I founded this caucus, this is what we envisioned. This is the spirit of, as what you were just saying, having a hearing so the people can come address their issues. There's so many issues that impact everyday Texans that go really unnoticed from the people who are in charge. But this caucus is fighting for the people. We're fighting for the real issues, the real kitchen table issues that families care about. Raising the minimum wage so that people can have a livable wage. Fighting for access to affordable health care when Texas leads the nation with the highest number of uninsureds. We need Medicaid expansion in Texas. We're now one of 10 states that don't have it. We're losing billions of dollars, but most importantly, we're losing lives from preventable deaths. We're on the front lines advocating for real, meaningful criminal justice reforms. We're on the front lines advocating for, immigration reform and a real pathway to citizenship. And speaking of that, when you have ICE really rogue, running amok, weaponizing the federal government to go after immigrants, that's not an immigration issue. That's a human rights issue. We should all denounce that. We should all be speaking out against that, just like we did when George Floyd was killed by that despicable officer in Minnesota. This caucus is speaking truth to power, and that's why we're here today, so that we can hear your issues. We are advocating for, you know, gun safety, common sense gun reform legislation. And I'm so proud that one of our caucus members, Representative Goodwin, has really been one of the leaders in the state in filing legislation so that we don't keep having those senseless deaths. So I'm so proud of this great panel and all of you, most importantly, you all that took the time out of your schedules on a Tuesday evening to be here. So thank you. I look forward to a great discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Representative Reynolds. Um, so now I want to acknowledge our city council members who were so great in showing up today. And we're so honored to be joined by you. I know you've had a very busy day. But let's go ahead and recognize and give them a moment to speak. Councilmember Mario Castillo. Do you need a microphone? There you go. No, he got it.
Got it. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mario Castillo, Houston City Council member, District H, and I want to start by thanking Representative Morales for hosting this session here in District H and bringing government to the people, to hear directly from the people. It is so important that this work is being done in neighborhoods like North Lindale, where we are this evening. Because not everybody can go to Austin. Not everybody can always access their elected officials in this way. So I wanted to be here tonight to support. These are some very important topics that we will be hearing from. And I also want to acknowledge the comments that were made around the tragic death of Lorenzo Salgado Arojo. It's really important that we continue to push for and demand transparency and accountability. And it helps when other elected officials from different levels of government, like our state, join that call and keep that push going until justice is served. So I thank you all for that.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. Now we'll move on to Councilmember Julian Ramirez, at large position.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to be here to listen. That's why I'm here, to listen to the concerns of our workers, of our small businesses, and our immigrants who live in Houston and make up a substantial portion of the population. I represent all of Houstonians as an at-large council member, and I recognize that the events of 2 weeks ago have the city reeling, quite frankly. And we have heard the expressions of pain and grief and anger. And everybody has the right to demand that an investigation uh, be done with integrity and that transparency come out of that investigation. So I know everybody is watching. Everyone at the city obviously is interested and supportive of this investigation. But two things come to mind. Is one, I'm interested in the safety of all Houston residents, and we cannot have any law enforcement agency working in an unsafe manner on our city streets, number one. And two, we all know this country desperately needs immigration reform. We've needed it for a long time. That understands the reality of the importance our immigrant community plays in our economy and how we're dependent on that. And so we all need to call upon our federal elected officials to have the political will to pass comprehensive immigration reform that makes sense for all of us, including all of us in Houston. But thank you again for the invitation to be here.
Thank you so much for being here, Council Member. Now we'll move on to Council Member Joe Panzarella, District C. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Joe Panzarella, and I am a Houston City Council member for District C. I have been in office for a whopping 2 months, but I ran recently on a campaign for safer streets, affordable housing, and transparency at City Hall. District C has the highest median rent of any district in Houston. We've seen citywide foreclosures have gone from 3% to 6%. So this affordability crisis is not getting better. And I believe in comprehensive form code changes like single stair reform, parking reform, and setback requirements that make it easier and quicker to build the affordable housing that we so desperately need. I understand that the last 2 weeks have been really difficult. Lorenzo Salgado Araujo should be with us here today. And my stance is very clear on ICE. They have no place in Houston or in this nation. But it has been incredibly powerful to see so many Houstonians come to City Council to express their concern, their frustration, and their anger. And I look forward to continuing to listen and to learn from you all here today. I want to give another shout out to Representative Morales. Thank you for hosting and having us here today. When it comes to transparency, I look forward to following along with the ordinance put forward by Councilmember Salinas and Pollard and former Councilmember Kamen, to really look into the data between the interactions of HPD and ICE. And already some reports have come out showing that there is a link there. And so that's something that I will very much be keeping tabs on. And again, thank you so much for having us here today.
Wow, so much. I appreciate your words. So let's move on to the panel. I know everybody's anxious to hear what other folks have to say besides just us here. But panel one is labor and working Texans. So I'm going to invite those panelists up while I say a few words, but Jennifer Hernandez, Linda Morales, and Liliana Rambo. Working Texans, honestly, they are the backbone of Houston's economy. Every day, millions of Texans go to work to support their families, strengthen our communities, and keep our economy moving. So tonight, we're going to hear from leaders representing workers, workforce, development, and about the challenges facing working families and the opportunities to strengthen our workforce. So each witness will have 3 minutes for testimony, followed by questions on our committee. And so we'll begin with Jennifer Hernandez. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us here today. My name is Jennifer Hernandez. I'm a business representative and also the political director for the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, District Council 10. We cover the entire state of Texas. Today, I'm talking about workers, working families. So working families are facing an affordability crisis that forces them into impossible choices. On a shoestring budget, they're figuring out how to cover rent, medicine, groceries, energy bills, and the list goes on. Everything is more expensive. Parents are aging, and everyone is one accident away from a catastrophe. And then they go to work, and the fears don't stop there. Our state gives exceptional power to employers, leaving workers with few protections when they find themselves in a bad situation with a bad actor as a boss. We've seen this time and time again. Even just in the last year, right here in Houston, workers building the new LBJ hospital recently alleged serious wage violations and misclassifications that have shortchanged hundreds of workers on this taxpayer-funded project. Misclassification is one way this happened on the LBJ project. Workers get misclassified as independent contractors and don't receive benefits that their employers should be paying and providing, such as health insurance, workman's comp, and much needed safety training. In practice, that means that, for example, if a worker gets hurt on the job, it's all on them. Uh, they have to pay for their own medical care on their own. They lose their income while they recover, and this impacts the entire household. Other LBJ workers reported that their classification on paper didn't match the actual level of skilled work that they were doing, and their paycheck reflected it. After workers raised these allegations, one subcontractor brought them in one by one and forced them to sign statements that they had been paid in full under the threat of losing their jobs. When employers are allowed to do this without consequence, we start to see a race to the bottom for other contractors, and it impacts workers the most. And we've seen that it really impacts, especially within the construction industry, the Latino community very heavily. Meanwhile, these workers are pushed into the shadows. Viable pipelines for resolving individual cases are far and few in between, and many workers either don't know about them or they just don't trust them. Addressing these issues on the LBJ project is critical, and we also need to reform the system so this doesn't happen, continue to happen again and again to workers. We need strong penalties that are actually enforced and stronger vetting of all subcontractors to prevent bad actors with long histories from receiving taxpayer dollars. Because even with skyrocketing costs, we're all still paying our taxes. We vote for public works projects like the new LBJ hospital because we know this infrastructure will serve our community for generations and we need it. But families are still digging deep, and contractors on some of these projects have an obligation to spend their tax dollars responsibly, and we don't want to subsidize exploitation. The legislature has a role to play here. Companies want to come cannot come at the expense in their lives. They're the ones responsible for building our future. They deserve better, and that means fair wages, stronger protections, and safe workplaces for all. But with all of this, let me tell you the good news. We know the solutions, and locally, our leaders have been trusted partners as we try to make things right and continue on that journey. My colleague, Linda Morales, has some things that can walk through, that she can walk through that we've done and that working people and things that working people need you as our legislators to do next. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Now we'll move on to Linda Morales.
Linda Morales, Organizing Coordinator with the Gulf Coast Area Labor Federation of the AFL-CIO. We represent 75 labor unions in 13 counties, advocate for working families. In Harris County alone, we represent over 50,000 workers. As you heard, Jennifer laid out some of the problems, and I'm here to share some of the solutions. Thankfully, in Harris County, our local leaders want to invest in working families, and they've made significant strides in partnership with the workers. One important example is our new work site safety policy adopted last fall. Texas leads the nation in construction deaths, and in Harris County, we've decided that that's not acceptable. Our leaders partnered with workers and employers to craft this policy and to keep workers safe on county-funded projects. We've also had enormous success with our federally funded county partnership program, Apprenticeship Advantage. The program offers paid on-the-job training to workers in high-demand industries. To date, we've put over 900 apprentices on the path to stable, well-paying careers, all without the burdens of student loan debt. This kind of collaboration should be a model for the benefits we can unlock when our government listens to and invest in working families. The legislature, too, has an opportunity to do the same. If only a few of your colleagues would come around. So next session, we ask you to consider the following priorities. First, continue to invest in the infrastructure working families rely on and the people who build it. Moreover, as Texas continues to see unprecedented advanced manufacturing and energy infrastructure, workers grows too. Those projects should be prioritized workers in the state or our job training pipelines and apprenticeships. Second, workers demand dignity and safety. No one vacation job outsourcing. Local leaders have worked closely with the community to pass policies not be jeopardized by overly broad, politically biased field preemption laws. We also must fight back against the governor's proposal to raise the threshold for local ballot initiatives, effectively silencing the will of the voters on issues of local importance. Every single day, workers are building the infrastructure the rest of us rely on to get to where we need to educate the next generation of leaders and to seek whom we need it most. The least we can do is return. The return is to make sure that they're getting a fair deal and a fair shot for families. Appreciate y'all listening and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Now we'll move on to Liliana Rambo.
Thank you. Second. Chair, members of the caucus, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. Liliana Rambo, CEO of Sir Jobs Workforce Development. For jobs as work who are seeking not just employment, but yields, individuals, people experiencing financial hardship, and families striving to build stable, self-sufficient lives. The workforce challenge facing Texas is significant. Across our from the units, I lack the transportation, to childcare, to career coaching, or any industry recognition. Careers. Of Sir Jobs for the last year. Before that, for the last 30 plus years, I was in government. I thought this was going to be a very easy transition. When I came to the nonprofit world, still, after a year of being in and out every single the regular person, to find a job, to find training, to find what they need to be able to have work. At Sir Jobs, we believe that workforce development is one of the most effective investments government can make. Every individual who gains the skills to secure quality employment, it strengthens our economy, reduces reliance on public assistance, and that's what we want. Contributes to the tax base and helps meet the workforce needs of Texans businesses. We respectfully encourage policy to prioritize sustained investment in workforce training aligned with employer demand. Let's find out what employment is needed so that we can close that gap. Expanded access to industry recognized credentials and registered apprenticeships. Greater support for wraparound services. transportation, childcare, and career coaching. We need to remove these barriers. Strong partnerships among nonprofits, employers, educational institutions, and workforce boards to create seamless career pathways. We can make this happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. Now I'd like to open it up to our panelists here. If you have any questions, Lauren?
Yeah, so-
Representative Simmons, sorry.
Thank you, Chairwoman. This question can be for anybody. So first and foremost, I would like to congratulate Jennifer, kind of buried the lead on this, the IUPAC union members for a successful contract negotiation after a strike. So I think that just shows the power of working people and how folks can stand up oftentimes and push back in the face of power. But would like to hear a little bit more specifically around immigration issues and how that is impacting the workforce, particularly in construction. And if anybody else would like to speak to that as well, thank you.
Any one of us? Okay. So, I mean, I'll just give you a brief statement on that. So at Sir Jobs, we provide workforce development. I could tell you that since the year that I've been there, we have seen a decline on the number of members that come to our doors to look for training. We also do food distribution. It was very sad to see last November. In October, we had 2 truckloads full of food that we couldn't distribute because people were afraid to come and get free food when we know that they need it. It has gotten a little bit better, but people are getting, thank God, smart about it, and they're sending their neighbors to go and get the food for them. So we have to work our policies around that to be able to make sure that, because we know that there are neighbors that are coming to get the food for other people. So we're allowing them to get 2 and 3 times because we see it. We just stand around our parking lot and see what is happening. It is because we know that this food is needed.
Yes, please.
This is a question that could correspond to all cities in Texas, but also Houston. How have y'all seen a shift in cities, municipalities working to oppose to actually hiring full-time staff?
And so it's not an issue that's unique to us here in Houston or Texas, unfortunately. I do think there's ways that we as a state can do better with that. And I think there's plenty of states that have models that we could utilize. Thank you.
Yes, Representative. So, Ms. Rambo, you mentioned the mismatch between skills and jobs. And so I believe we have talked about that in the legislature, but I don't know that we have a solution. Do you have ideas on how we can get young people in particular, maybe going through career technical education in school, to have the skills that they need coming out of school? Would that be part of the solution? And then I will say that on my recent trip, I heard about hundreds of people being brought in, I think from out of state, to Abilene to build this data center, and actually was displacing the local residents because of the issue of housing, not having housing. And so that's what drove rent prices up there. Again, I would assume that there was a mismatch of not having the skilled labor there, and how can we improve that situation?
So, I mean, I know that specifically in Harris County, some of the CTE programs that we used to have, we don't have them any longer, right? So, Start Jobs, one of the things that we do is we go to the high schools. And we're looking for the seniors around, we went around March, April, the seniors that we know that they're not gonna go to a 4-year institution, they're not gonna go to a 2-year institution either. And we have presented what the construction industry has to, it's a great career. And if they get into something that has to do into construction, one of the things that I believe that we have done very well, and something that we're working on with some of our partners is showing what construction is and could be as a career, that you do not just have to be the flagger out on the street, right? You could have a great career as a construction worker. Most of us will have to start at the low level. But when you get to be a project manager, when you get to be, a site superintendent, that is a great career for a person and their family as well as the community. What we're trying to do is make sure that we provide the marketing, right? The message around, this is the reason why we need more people in the trades. The jobs are there. This is how much they make. People, young adults do not think that you could actually make a good living when you go into a construction workforce. So that's something that we have to really all work together to try to be, to fix.
So you said that there's less CTE in our high schools, and is that a cut, and is because we underfund our public schools?
My understanding is that we basically pretty much went out of the skill trade, right? I don't know what, 20, 30, 40 years ago, 4-year education, what we were pushing, not the skill trades. So a lot of those programs kind of went by the wayside. Just us trying to employ a carpentry teacher, it took us almost 4 months to find someone to come and teach carpentry at our workforce development training.
So it's also about finding the people to provide that training.
The training, yeah, because a lot of them are working. So you kind of sort of have to find someone that is retiring from the trade to be able to want to come and work as a teacher for that. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Last question. With the trade, you're talking about finding teachers. So I know in our family, in the personal circle of family, it's hard. We hear a lot from our compadres that they're not able to renew their license, different trades. So we have a lot of people out there, because the state has made it difficult for certain documentation to renew their licenses. Could you speak to how that's impacting not only people being able that are clearly qualified to do it because they've been doing forever, but also this pricing that it's costing? For example, they're going to budget X amount of money, but now the labor, because people can't get, so now it's going to take longer. We're hearing from, I wanted to build a floor or whatever, but now labor, they shot up the prices because the labor there is expensive to that.
I would say there's certain trades that are licensed, and you all may have seen it in the legislature. It seems like it comes up quite a bit. Fight for maintaining their licensing. The cost of everything is going up, the cost of labor, the cost of materials. I can definitely see the correlation of fighting to keep your licensing, to be able to continue to work, and how that would impact workers. Because when you're busy over here with this distraction of just trying to be able to maintain your livelihood, there's other things coming in from that back door there. I think there's a lot of solutions that can come together. Working with the trades, working with, CTE programs and organizations like SARE jobs. As long as workers are at the center of that conversation, we can help to identify and work together for those solutions. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions from the panelists? Oh, sure.
And this is for anyone on the panel. Wondering if you all are familiar with local businessman Stan Merrick's idea of ID and tax that would provide a pathway to a legal status and to sort of bring immigrant workers out of the shadows. Because currently employers will sometimes in cash consider them sort of put
I know Stan Merrick's work and certainly, you know, I would support that. But I haven't heard from him in a long time. So I don't know where he's at right now.
He's still around if you got tired.
So, yeah.
About the ideas.
So I can speak to that, actually. He's one of our, strongest supporters right now at our jobs, actually. So, he
Yes.
is
20,000% and still with that idea. And when you take a look at what he has proposed, and this has been a while that he proposed this, it makes a lot of sense because it will make, you know, it will bring people that are right now to the appropriate work is go
which is one of the things that, you know, that we want them to be able to do.
Yeah.
And when you look at,
and
why
when you look
other
at
politicians have not
why other politicians have not wanted to do in that of Councilmember Ramirez, because Stan Merrick has been talking about this for I think maybe 20 or 30 years. I know he has met with many different you know, politicians, and it hasn't happened. He also has a book that he published, and that, and when you read that, I mean, we talked about, you know, trying to find a solution. I would just, I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, he's God gives to workforce or anything like that, but he has something going on there. So he definitely pretty much, you know, supports that. He supports, you know, the work that is needed by the people that is need that can get it done. So.
Thank you so much. Please help me in thanking everyone who joined us on this panel. Our next panel will be Small Business and Economic Opportunity. Oh, and I do want to remember to recognize that Senator Molly Cook has a representative here as well. Thank you so much, Senator. So our panel 2, Small Business and Economic Opportunity. Let us ask Norma Matu Garza, Jacob Torres, Eric Ibarra, and Dr. Laura Murillo to come please sit in the
130,000 businesses in the greater Houston region are small businesses, and nearly 2 in 5 are owned by people of color. These businesses create jobs, strengthen neighborhoods, and drive economic opportunity across our region. So tonight we'll hear from business and community leaders about the opportunities and challenges facing entrepreneurs and what policymakers can do to help small businesses succeed. So again, each witness will have up to 3 minutes, and we'll start with Norma Matu Garza. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone. And chair members of the Legislative Progressive Caucus and distinguished guests. And fellow panelists. My name is Norma Matu. I am not only a small business owner, but I've been an educator with Houston for more than 20 years in public education with nonprofits, KIP and Yes Prep, and even taught at Cleveland ISD and Baker Ripley. As a small business owner and community advocate, I bring all of this together because before I was any of those things, I was a child growing up with a World War II grandfather and a feisty Native American grandmother, because my parents would have to also migrant work, and my friend, so they would go out to California and pick different crops and actually pick cotton with parents. As a little girl in Robstown, Texas, we were known as the cotton pickers. What our mascot was. To give you an idea of where I grew up, how I grew up. And I thought I had a great upbringing. Never thought that I was impoverished. My grandparents gave me everything that I wanted. I didn't have toys, I didn't have Barbies, but I had encyclopedias coming to me every month. Um, my father was an immigrant who teach me to speak Spanish. So even though I thought I was a bilingual person when I was 18, trying to have a test for the city of Houston, I failed it, right? And they did that they did that intentionally because they knew that they were trying to help me be the person that I needed to be, that they couldn't be back then because they knew what to make the change. I stand here today not only as an educator, but just disruptions as ICE deportations, children in ways that extend far beyond the classroom. If we fail them today, and yes, I'm here as a business owner. If we fail them today, we all pay the price tomorrow. I am not only a co-owner of Custom Comfort AC and Heating Services. I've learned to do all of that myself. Depends on educated workers, healthy families, and thriving. We cannot talk about economic development while ignoring the conditions that prevent from reaching their full potential because leaders for tomorrow. And all of these issues that were being spoken to in the prior panel, this is what I'm having issues with in trying to hire somebody that is not either college ready to mentor them or to be career ready. And I feel like that we need to come together and create some type of panel that all of us can talk about and create a solution to come together. Our children are being guided into these services that are out there because they don't know.
Thank you for your testimony. Now we'll move on to Jacob Torres.
How is everybody? I apologize for my voice. I got a little allergies in my throat. I appreciate it for the invite. There's a moment sitting back here, I'm going, I don't know what here, and now I kind of realize being here and what I get into here next is, I think these panels I know can't be just one-sided. I think that's why I'm here, because the simple fact is a lot of people in this room eat my tacos, right? I feed a lot of people in here, right? When we're in the room, it's everybody. It's not about religion. It's not about color. It's not about what we believe in. We're all friends. We all go. Looking at what just went with FIFA, when all these countries came together and we're swapping jersey. I will say this, I'm 47 years old. I've never had a soccer jersey. I would say I'm a Nosabo kid, right? I grew up here, right? I grew up here. My Spanish is not great. I can order tacos. Y'all can order tacos with me. And I got you, right? We can order, and we all do. We all have that Spanish, right? But to see where all of a sudden I have a jersey, and then my neighbors have jerseys. So when I begin, I'll talk is, I'm an East Side. I'm born and raised in the East Side. Through some permits that we're doing right now, we were able to get our past deeds. The first family member that was in records for us is 1950. So we've been on that property since 1950. Wow. It's been a house. It's been, people know my Aunt Yolanda. There was a civil rights. It was a house for worship. And then it was a taco shop in 77. Right? And through that, again, I think what I'm here to say is, how do we bring all of these issues together and work on both sides? It's not one color, it's not one this, it's not who this, is that. We've had problems for not just 2 years, 3 years. Everybody's gone in here the last 30 years, the last 40 years. The years change, but the problems don't. So for me as a small business, and I get into the workforce part of it, I will say this, and it's something into it. I'm having a great time right now. My business is thriving, but it's because of my price point. Because my price point is $20, right? And you can get 2 tacos and a drink for $20, so you're good till dinner time. So I'm doing great, but 5 years ago I wasn't, because people had the money and they were going eating $30, $40 a plate. So that's where we're at right now. I'm going into it. As far as the ICE goes and the impact of that, I've had businesses close in the last 6, 7 months because of certain pockets in certain areas of Houston that were like that. But then we have pockets that are thriving. So for me, I would have to say, it's like, how do we get together as a team, law enforcement, first responders, council, everybody together and work as a group to fix these issues?
Thank you for your testimony. Now we're moving on to Eric Ibarra.
Thank you, Representative Morales and the rest of the group for having me here today. I grew up in the East End as well, just like Jacob, and I can talk to you ad nauseum about what I believe to be a way to build strong communities. We built Magnolia Fund, which is a local organization that is a for-profit, 149 investors. We built a shared kitchen in the East End so that people who are from that neighborhood or who love the East End can participate in the economic progress that's already happening in their backyard. I could talk to you forever about that. But what you may not know is that in 2002, officers who were executing a search warrant next to my home in the East End illegally went into our home. They beat up myself, my brother, and my mom had to stand in the way of an officer who pulled his gun on me, threatened to shoot me, all because they believed they could operate outside of the law. In the East End, we have businesses who put up signs that say ICE is not welcome. Yet at the city level, we do not have that same posture and position. And so I would like to make my experiences, my lens that I see the world, the things we had to endure with our civil rights case. We didn't even know what our Fourth Amendment's rights were when they were being violated, but we knew it wasn't right. We knew it was wrong. And right now, to allow people into our city that operate outside of the law, that is lawlessness. So whatever we can do to ensure the safety of our citizens, if our East End businesses have the bravery to put up these signs that say ICE is not welcome here at the city level, at the state level, and I hear talk about we must vote and we must do things at the national level. But we are your constituents, and your constituents, our voices cannot be a dead end at City Hall. At City Hall, it must be an amplifier for our voices that allows the rest of the community to understand what the real priorities and issues are in our communities. Then it flows to the state, then it flows to the national level. So please understand that your residents, your citizenry, understand the real problems they face. I spent 25 years raising money and being part of the tech community from here to Silicon Valley. And Silicon Valley is not solving second world problems. So I would urge you, listen to your constituents. Please have the bravery to step up to do the right thing. And I make myself available in all my experience to whatever we can accomplish together.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you, Representative.
Yes, so now we'll move on to Dr. Laura Murillo. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Anytime you call, we are always ready to speak on behalf not only of the business community, but as someone who was born and raised also in Magnolia, Houston's East End, Second Ward. I'm honored to be here. And I grew up in small business. At the age of 10, worked in my family's Mexican restaurant, which thankfully is still operating. The challenges today, though, Representative and other leaders, is a very different dynamic. And I'll start with the fear factor that has kept many people in their homes. They are not going to school. We know that the number of children at schools has gone down significantly. We know that foot traffic at our restaurants and our businesses in many cases are anywhere between 15 and 20% lower foot traffic because of fear. We understand that after school programs, people are not signing up for them as they used to, again, because they may come from, as many of our Latino families come from, multi-generational homes. They're sending one family member to go out and get food and items while the others stay at home. Thanks to Mayor Whitmire, I serve on the board of the Sports Authority, and we know that Telemundo and Univision, their numbers of people watching sports, whether it was FIFA or anything else, their numbers, their ratings have never been higher ever in their history because they're afraid to go out and enjoy the simple pleasures of going to a park, to go and get immunized. We have entrepreneurs who are still trying to pay off loans that they received during COVID, and they are struggling. They can't get those refinanced. And so they are still coming out of this dark hole that was COVID, trying to survive, and it's relatively impossible. Hispanics, documented or not, in Houston represent $54 billion per year in Houston in economic spending. So I implore you to speak on behalf of those who are not at this table. We are counting on you and your colleagues and the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce every day, including this morning. We have been speaking to non-Latino CEOs who are the beneficiaries of the work of our people, to ask them to speak up and to stand up and to be our allies, to advocate for those of us who are not able to be at this table. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We're going to let 4 people ask questions. Do you want to, we can start over here. Do you have any questions on this side? No? Okay. Yes. Oh, there we go. Representative Reynolds.
So I want to thank you all for your testimonies, very insightful. So we know that there's been a recent move by the state of Texas through the, well, at the time it was the interim controller, Kelly Hancock, to basically eradicate the HUB program. If the HUB program goes away, what kind of impact would that have on the small business community?
I would say that it's not even just the small business community. Without naming names, I can tell you off the top of my head, Representative, 4 very established minority-owned businesses, 4 generations worth, that within the next year and a half will close down. They have employed hundreds of people. They've been pillars in our community, and they will not move forward anymore because of the ramifications of what is going on with HUB.
We are seeing a proliferation of our tax dollars being just decimated. You have people in our communities asking, what are we paying for? We, in the East End specifically, not only, of course, we have challenges at the state level and the closing, the shuttering of our schools, but new sidewalks, new infrastructure, new buildings, they're not being distributed equally in our community. They are in the new developments. I started this fund because I was tired of seeing the new sidewalks and the new infrastructure being installed in our neighborhoods when really our tax dollars were supposed to keep these things fresh, these things up and maintained. And so I think this, I mean, just think of parks, right? We have so many conservancies. I serve on the Mason Park Conservancy because we have to find private dollars, private donors to fund our, just the bare minimum maintenance so we can have restrooms for kids and playgrounds for the kids. Our tax dollars are not what they used to be. Perhaps they never were. But today, I think we are seeing more and more of what you're speaking of, and just the rug pull that is our resources that were funded by our tax dollars no longer available for us.
Piggyback off that in Denver Harbor, you know, that Adrian Garcia and I think Anna, Councilman Representative Anna, I forgot her last name, Hernandez, they raised more than $1 million just to renovate that. And I was in the meeting there with the Denver Harbor, you know, Civic Center. And I specifically asked the city of Houston, how many of those people that are going to renovate our park will be minority-owned businesses? And I don't see any minority-owned businesses signs out there. And the architects that put this park infrastructure together totally got everything wrong that stood for who Denver Harbor and East End was, that there was an argument about colors. Why didn't you sit with us before making that plan with not only the people of the community, but also the actual, talk to us about small businesses? Because when you talk about construction, you'll find small business owners, construction owners, in the East End alone that you can contract. And I don't see those signs out there. And it's making me mad. Like I'm walking around my own park across the street. And actually it's my husband's park, well, because he grew up in Denver Harbor, but it's my community. And I go into Edo, right? Which is not, it's East End, Second Ward. And all of these different sidewalks that are being built and brought to you by, and I've gotten off and I bring my card for, how can I bid on this, my company for AC? We want to bid in the gentrification of those. I hate this, but I mean, we also have to make money and live, right? But we want to bid during COVID for those 4-story houses that took over Fifth Ward, that will soon take over our houses. But it was so hard to even get in. And you're talking to an educated Latina that educated other children, minorities, and it's hard for us to get in with our AC business that's licensed, and that I made my husband take his license because he was scared to take a test. And I'm like, you have the knowledge. It took him 7 times to take that test. Not because he didn't know, he was missing it by 1 point. But you're going around Edo, you go around all of these places that are being renovated, gentrified, and it's not our people building it. If these bids and these contracts are given to people that we don't even know where they're coming from. And then they're using our taxpayer dollars to build out these parks, and they don't even take into consideration our children. There is no water park or whatever you call it, splash pad coming in Denver Harbor. You know how hot it is? You can't renovate the swimming pool, and that's in pretty much all of the East End, Second Ward area parks. We had to take our kids out from, if you don't have gas money, and our kids don't have gas money, so we have to go out from our neighborhoods instead of going across the street. And so when I call 311, this is what I say: Denver Harbor, River Oaks, put it on there. And it's funny, they laugh, but you know what? I say my neighbor's trash has not been picked up, and he is, they had a heart attack. They're older people. Put it on there, Denver Harbor, River Oaks, because I know that my attorney friends and the people that live in River Oaks, when they call 311, it gets done like that. So we had to sit with trash and filth and waste, and I have the receipts for it.
One of our council members wants to speak on that.
Yeah. A couple comments, and then I have a question for y'all as well. I know a lot of times politically, it's a lot more fun to cut ribbons on new things than it is to renovate and refresh. And so I think that's something that we're trying to bring to council now. When it comes to parks funding and funding it equitably, I can say we just voted on an open spaces ordinance that was passed last week that allows for 30% of funds that developers pay into to be spent outside of the region where the development is happening, which I think it's a really exciting development and a very small step forward to redistributing funds equitably for parks development specifically. But I do believe there still is a lot more work to be done there, and especially when it comes to bringing in minority-owned businesses. I think we can always do better there. I guess a question I had for y'all really quickly is just, what's the general feelings around permitting, licensing at the city? Do y'all feel that things are moving in a better direction? As a owner, is it difficult, cumbersome? Would love to check.
So I will start. My contractor's in the room. He got defended. I started last October, and we still don't have one permit yet. But we have surveys, and we have variances now. We have this and we have that, but we also have a building next door to me that apartment complex that got built with no surveys. I'm a 3,000 square feet building that has 13 surveys, asbestos. I will say this, and when we talk about parking lots, and that's why I'm a little different. I enjoy it because I have new streets and I have new sidewalks because we're close to FIFA, right? So we're good. I was fortunate enough to go to FIFA and go into the tent. And to see that be built in 2 weeks, but it's taken me 9 months to get a permit. It was pretty shaky in there, some of the stuff. Some of that stuff got built within 2 weeks. So permits and all that kind of stuff, like, again, it's not real good here in Houston right now. It's not. And again, I see a lot of y'all. I see a lot of councils, men, Congress, mayors, everybody that come in here and eat. I can eat, but I can't get a permit. I'm trying to make it better for everybody. For y'all can have meetings with me and draw in business with me, right? So I can have a meeting with y'all, but if it's gonna take 10 months, 12 months, there's people around East End right now that are doing buildings that they've been sitting there for 12 months, a year, and they can't even serve, and they're paying rent, and they're getting into that stuff. Eastbound Barbecue, 9 months, 10 months. They couldn't open up. They were just doing papas, this big property, and they're paying rent every month. It's taking them a year to get a permit.
We are going outside an area to work in other places because they can get their permit and get going from money, which is why we start a business.
I don't want to go too far.
Different counties. So in different counties, for Harris County, it is harder to get a that we serve. And I just know that it's sometimes who you know and who it is because I'm not gonna we actually were asked to, and we did Travis's Thoughts House for AC, right? And that came to us from California, somebody that went out there. And the permits came really quick. And I'm not trying to undermine anybody. I don't know who did that. I just know that we did our part and there was a lot of construction going on there. And as long as you know and you're connected to somebody, the permits go fast. But I know that we have to deal with companies like going in and y'all need to get service and we look for permits and they're taking forever.
I mean, we're going off track a little bit, but I do
Sure.
want you to have a minute to say
Just
what.
specifically, I will provide you a spreadsheet of all of the food makers.
We have 14 food makers, and in our facility, it's a shared kitchen. We have, before we could allow any food maker to join, had to have our certificate of occupancy, our food dealer's permit, and essentially what's called a grease trap permit. So do all of our food makers. We have one food maker who she imports matcha from Japan, just puts it in smaller boxes and sells it to coffee shops. Unless she uses the restroom, she doesn't even touch any of our plumbing. And they all pay the same fee. And so there is some redundancy and in many respects waste, because while sure the city may be thinking they're earning more revenue, they're actually spending a lot of time sending inspectors out there to inspect the grease trap 14 times, when really if we only had a restaurant and we just had one grease trap permit, we could do so much volume. We're not going to charge you more for the volume of the grease trap. The city is only getting one fee for that. So there needs to be some of that redundancy and waste cut out. And I can send you a spreadsheet on what our people pay.
Thank you so much. We're going to stop our, go ahead.
Great job, and Perry, great job with in Park Street kitchen. But, I hear calls for the state to prohibit ICE from operating and city council to prohibit ICE from operating the limits of Houston. And I want to ask the panel, is anyone on the panel aware of any legal authority that we would have to prevent ICE from operating either in the state or within the city, since the city is a political subdivision of the state? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Unfortunately, unfortunately, you all know we're in Texas, and they as in the majority were on the forefront of what is happening now. So we were ground zero for Project 2025 back in 2022, 2023 in the ledge, and we were working as hard as we can to delay that hearing and delay so that the time would be taken and we wouldn't pass the legislation where you could racial profile. I mean, we even brought up testimony from DPS saying we can smell an immigrant.
I think all of y'all, I saw y'all all there.
I recorded Armando Wally, and he
was crying, I remember.
well, because he said he was a soldier for the party in power. And so it's unfortunate that they were ahead of that. So there's nothing I don't have hopes in Texas. In other states like California, where you have governors who are really advocating and supporting the people, where they feel confident to fight back. Unfortunately, in Texas, we know that if our police department or if our cities refuse to do whatever, our governor will then threaten communities and say, we will take away resources, we will take away funding. And that is the truth of where we're at right now. The leadership and the party in power right now is using your tax dollars, the ones that you guys invested in when during COVID. We are a regressive tax state. So look that up if you don't know what that means. In Texas, the taxes we pay, you pay the same taxes that a multimillionaire pays. When you go to the grocery store, when you do property taxes, you pay the same percentage. So if you make less money, you're paying more percentage of your pocket as a working class folk than the rich folk are. So if you make 50,000 a year and you pay, let's say 15-20% in taxes, that millionaire, whatever, they're not paying 15-20% in taxes. So the money that Abbott is holding on to in our state coffers saying, let's go do another $1 billion in vouchers. Let's go do this. That money easily could gone into your streets, could easily stop those schools from closing, those hospitals from closing, educated our kids, provided health care, maternal mortality. I mean, the money is there, people, but the priorities are not. And until we change the leadership in this state, we don't even have the appetite in this leadership to fight back, because they are in lockstep. They were Trump before Trump became president.
The family of Lorenzo Salgado Araujo does not know the name of the man who killed him. That means those officers were operating above the law. And I'm sorry, but the city of Houston to allow lawlessness like that, respectfully, that means you are now asking your citizens to defend themselves. You're now asking the citizens to do your job. Not you up here, I get that, but at the city level, if you cannot protect us, we must.
Absolutely.
I don't know the difference between like why it's so hard for state, federal, and local authorities to come together when we came together during COVID. We came together during COVID and we weren't asking these questions. We were saying, how can we educate each other? We were adapting. So why can't we adapt? And why are we allowing? Because right now it's brown people, but immigrants are not just brown. Immigrants come in all different colors. And so we just need to stop asking and start just collaborating, because I was part of for the mayor, I was on the COVID education team, and we built that team, and then we spread it out through low income zip codes. And we won an award from Atlanta and CDC. I don't know why we can't do that for immigration. Why can't we come together and put a teacher, put a business owner, put a police officer, all of us together to say, ICE, we would like for you to do this, and collaborate with us and say, these are a de-escalation issues that we have. Why are we asking why? Why aren't we just doing it? We did it during COVID to help people stay safe. We need to do it during immigration, because I look like I'm just across the border, but I got my Native American genes. And we just need to quit asking why and just do it.
We are running out of time, so we want to move on to our next panel, but we so much appreciate you, and it feels like there's so much more to talk about, but we want to get people home at a safe time. Muchísimas gracias. Let's give them a round of applause. Okay, panel 3, equally important as the other two, is immigration and workforce. So let us bring up Cesar Espinosa, A.B. Hart, Dr. Orlando Lara, and Ruby Powers. Immigrants help build Houston, and they help build the Texas Capitol in Austin. Today, they remain an essential part of our workforce, our economy, and our communities. Tonight, we'll hear from attorneys, advocates, and community leaders about how current immigration policies are affecting workers, families, employers, and our local economy. Again, each witness will have 3 minutes, and we will begin with mi amigo Cesar Espinosa. Thank you for your advocacy.
Thank you so much, Representative Morales, and thank you for doing this. I also agree and applaud that going to Austin is tough work, but it's necessary work. And I appreciate that you all helped us in Houston and then afternoon. So first of all, our condolences go to the Lorenzo Salgado Araujo family. Mr. Lorenzo Salgado Araujo, today, at this time, should have been home eating dinner with his wife. He should not be lifeless. Yet, different policies that the state, federal level have allowed, and at the city level have allowed for this to happen. We actually do believe that the city has, if not the legal authority, we have the moral authority to put up a fight against the federal government. In a city that has 600,000 undocumented immigrants, where 1 out of every 10 Houstonians is undocumented, we should demonstrate better leadership and say, these folks are also Houstonian. Because we don't ask for papers when we drive on the roads. We don't ask for papers when we sit in nice air-conditioned buildings. We don't ask for papers when we eat our great food. But yet, when it's politically easy to do so, we say, well, that's not our problem. That's the federal government's problem. I'd rather stay under the radar. We are not under the radar. As the third largest city, we are definitely on the radar. In terms of the state, there's many things that can be done. We are working right now with about 400 CDO driver's license folks who have lost, who have documents, who have TPS and DACA and DAD and different immigration statuses, who are making, one of the stories that resounds to me is a DACA recipient who had sent her kid to aviation academy to join the U.S. Air Force, paid tuition in full for the first semester. But when she lost her CDL, her son had to come back, and now she's working in Uber, making $400 a week. How is that fair? She has documents. She's documented to be here. Why isn't she allowed to drive her truck? Why aren't other folks allowed to drive their trucks? There's so many things to do, and that the legislature, it's only going to get tougher this year. And so what are we going to do to stand up and fight back for all of our immigrant communities, not just in Houston, but in Dallas, San Antonio, and the Valle, and other places? Lastly, I'm going to change hats real quick. And as a dad, I will tell you that kids are suffering because of this. We have to have conversations with our kids. My sister was just telling me that she told my nieces and my nephews to give them instructions on what to do in case she gets pulled over. And my niece is supposed to record, and my nephew is supposed to call her or me to go save whoever's in the car. And my other dad hat is, please fight back against church and schools. I am a God-believing man, but I also respect other people's beliefs. And I really feel for our Muslim brothers and sisters, our Jewish brothers and sisters, and other denominations of them getting indoctrinated in our schools. Shouldn't happen. There's a reason why we have separation of church and state. And we should remind folks that pretend to value and defend our rights and value fiscal responsibility to stop wasting our taxpayer money passing these stupid laws, because that's what they are, or these stupid mandates that only waste more money because we're going to sue at the end of the day. And that's not, it's not fiscally conservative, as some folks would like to say. And if we're talking about fiscally conservative back to Houston, we're losing money. There's a lot of restaurants people are so afraid to go out that you just look at the Chronicle. Every week they announce new restaurant closes. And it's not because our food is bad or we're just stop eating. It's just people cannot afford it. People are so afraid. A guy called me today. He hasn't left his house in a month because he's afraid that he's going to go outside and either ICE or HPD is going to pick him up.
Thank you for your testimony. Now we're moving on to A.B. Hart. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for allowing me to be part of this hearing. My name is A.B. Hart, and I am here on behalf of Foster LP. And I would like to share some of my day-to-day experience with my client. So immigrants have always invested in our economy. A lot of our immigrants, especially in Houston area, They invest at least 800,000 in creating new businesses. There are construction companies that create houses for communities. There are restaurant owners who bring new restaurants to our community. And through their process, they get the green card, but also at the same time, they hire US citizens. Uh, one of my clients, he has a very successful restaurant, hires over 30 employees, started from scratch, spent over $2 million just creating this business. He was in the backlog for over 2 years. His son, who was part of the petition, couldn't be part of it. Now he had to close his second branch so his son can open a business abroad in Europe. So it's not only affecting one individual, but it's affecting the community because their contribution is creating jobs. But because of the different policy changes, the loan processing time is discouraging these investors to invest in the United States. And now they're looking into Canada, Dubai, Spain, and giving up the American dream. And it's very sad because you may think, oh, it's just this individual who wants to invest. No, they're closing their business, just like what you said. Like we're seeing businesses close, and I am seeing it firsthand how these businesses are closed because investors are just not. They don't want to be part of this system where they feel afraid having to go to the streets and being asked, what is your immigration status, when they have done everything legally, waited a long time to get their green card. And at the end, they may say, hey, no, just because. And right now, as we speak, we have a presidential the proclamation that is banning 75 countries. And this includes investors who already invested their money. And now they're just can simply come in and create those jobs. So it's very frustrating to see people with no criminal background who want to invest in our community, who believe in the United States, but yet the United States doesn't believe in them. So that's something that I really would like you to advocate. That is not just what we see a green card for one investor or a lot of immigrants, but also affecting United States citizens because at the end of the day, they are the ones who are being employed by these entrepreneurs.
Leaving money at the table. Thank you for your testimony. Now we're moving on to Dr. Orlando Lara. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Rep. Morales. It's great to meet you finally. And I wanted to just say a few things just about me. I'm a dad. I'm here as a scholar and also as a son of a domestic worker who now is a business owner. She runs a wedding venue in Spring. And a dad that to this day is still a maintenance man. He was a head maintenance and now he's a porter. So I grew up working class with a mixed immigrant status family. I work on two issues, and I'm going to try to speak to both in 3 minutes. I know I'm going to fail, but I work on education and I work on immigration and citizenship. And I think those two issues are increasingly coming together for me. So one thing, just also kind of a word of thanks. Last year, I worked with folks to fight the State Board of Ed, which is dominated by Republicans, to renew a course in American Indian Studies, which is on the books. People can teach it here in Texas. It was a hard fight, and a lot of the progressive caucus, I realized I was here, actually wrote letters of support. This was in June, a policy win in 2025 in June. This year, social studies is having a much harder time. There's a concerted effort to whitewash and Christianize their social studies, required Bible readings only of the Christian faith of the Protestant tradition, of Protestant translations in schools. At the same time, we're facing this mass deportation. How are these two things connected? In my professional experience as an anthropologist, I think we're living through an era that we can call political ethnic cleansing. There's a concerted effort to reduce the Latino population on the one hand, sure. And on the other hand, there's a concerted effort to erase our history, to return to assimilationist politics so that those youth that remain do not vote Democrat in the future. And I think what makes it so hard to fight them. There is a little bit of hope because these policies are built on a bed of lies. We know that the Texas white working class is actually suffering as a result of mass deportation. I'm going to read something from the New York Times. Researchers recently published a study, and this is what that study says. Analyzing federal labor data, researchers focused on 4 industries that rely heavily on undocumented immigrant workers: agriculture, construction, manufacturing, and wholesale. Deportations had a chilling effect on each of these industries, disproportionately affecting men, who accounted for more than 90% of the immigration arrests. Taken together, the affected industries saw a 5% drop in employment for male undocumented workers and a 1.3% drop for male American-born workers without a college degree. White men are losing jobs. Why are they losing jobs? Because the economy has shrunk. They don't have as many workers to do the work. White men tend to be the bosses, the middle management. When the industry shrinks, they lose work. I don't know how to convince white folks that they're losing from mass deportation. We have to continue to try. But my practical side also says they're very emotionally committed to that. We need to do what we can with the power that we have. So just to echo what folks are saying here, I would just say it a little bit different. And I think this is where elected officials can work with scholars who spend their lives looking at the details. We can come up with policies that can regulate how ICE enforces its law. Maybe we can't kick them out of everywhere, right? But you can have policies that regulate. I'll give a precise example. I met a family of the man, Luis Garces, who died in Condro detention facility, in the Condro detention facility. Decide whether therapy is required. That shouldn't be the case. The county shouldn't allow that. The county should require, if there's a law enforcement related death, there must be an autopsy. We should be able to come up with policies that regulate how matters of life and death are handled, right? I think we can get creative. The last thing, if we do win power, and I hope we do, at the state, we've got prepared with strong and confident and fast policy proposals that can regulate ICE, that can embed democracy into our various state levels of government. Obama has said this as well. So that when we lose power, there are procedural guidelines in place that will prevent this rise of fascism. And I'm happy to get scholars together to work with y'all at various levels to come up with a plan so we're ready. Think positively. Sooner or later, we will win power in Texas. We got to be ready.
So much for your testimony. And now we're going to move on to my dear friend, Ruby Powers. Thank you so much for being here, Ruby.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm a board certified immigration attorney with Powers Law Group. I've been practicing 18 years. And I'll tell you, this is probably the hardest time in the whole 18 years and the 20-something years I've been in the immigration field. What do these people have in common? The key eyewitness of Lorenzo Salgado's shooting. A primary caregiver with an under 1-year-old, a nurse with no criminal charges who's been detained for 9 months with a 15-year-old at home, and a food truck owner who who's the primary caregiver for his wife with hepatitis. They all have been detained. Only the 8-year-old was released. We know about that, but they're all detained. And we've seen recent reports of high numbers of detention ever. People are disappearing from communities. With the mixed status homes that we do, the thing is that person impacted, that means the whole family has to decide, are they moving abroad? Are they going to stay separated? Or what are you going to do? And a lot of them are business owners. Like, I feel like a lot of our panels have so much overlap. You know, I'm a business owner as well, and I'm seeing my clients who are business owners losing their business because they can't make money, they can't be out there. And so I would love to give us hope, and I think you're right. We need to be ready when we have power, and we have to have a plan. But I want to let you also know something else that's coming along. A new policy from the federal government about public charge is going into place September 18th. What does that mean? Well, the last time this happened, everyone was afraid to put their kid in CHIP, TANF, et cetera, et cetera. So they were making a choice. Do I take care of my kid? Do I get some food? Do I get medical treatment? Or do I really want to maybe possibly get a green card? And so this is September 18th. State ledge, I would love for there to be more possibilities for us to do in the meantime while we're waiting, or we're working to have more power in this, because we know that it's very federal government heavy in immigration space, but it's affecting us dramatically. Driver's license. It used to be that you didn't have to have status to get a driver's license. Why can't we go back to that? Because as soon as a person gets stopped and they don't have a driver's license, you go questioning to what's your status. You don't have insurance. Okay, it's all those tickets you get. And then historically now, let's call ICE, and then you get detained. The other one that's hurting us is the state funding for immigration. If we could have immigration detention legal funding. They have that in other states. I know it's wishful thinking, but we have so many people who are getting detained, and they're putting loans on their homes, selling their cars. They can't afford the service that they need. Say also the instance that for longtime residents, it's really hitting us hard for our communities. There's so much. Okay, I was checking my own time. There's so much to be done, and I want to be available, like other panelists have said, to be a part of this conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, we're going to allow 2 questions. Yes, please, Representative Simmons. Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate you all being here. This evening, I wish to acknowledge my ancestor. We have been in the trenches together. When I worked at the Black Alliance for Just Immigration, he was often, and I organized mostly Black immigrants who were domestic workers in Houston. He was often somebody I went to when I had questions and concerns. So I really appreciate your work. Really briefly, if somebody would like to kind of maybe speak to the brain drain that we're experiencing on the academic level, both with students and faculty and staff, of some of these policies that we have, and then just briefly touch on kind of how that impacts the workforce and the future of the state. Thank you.
One of the stories that I heard recently was, I feel we don't ask why the kid is angry. We don't ask, how to punish the kid. We ask why the kid is angry to begin with, and why does he act out in school. And one of recently was a student all of a sudden started failing everything, started acting out, and when his a student at HISD, when he was asked why that was, it's because his mom had gotten deported, and now dad was working, was doing double time. We have another story of kids also at HISD who mom was a gardener. She got into with UPS, UPS, licensed postal service worker. They called a constable, and the constable took her and then held her for 14 hours for ICE. And then she was deported, and now her grandkids are living in Belize because they can't be without grandma. And the stories go on and on and on of kids suffering, sitting in classrooms wondering if they're home and if dad aren't going to be there. And we've seen it. And one of the kids on Belize, we asked them, we had an activity with them, and we asked them to draw what they were going to do for the summer. And the kid drew a suitcase. And when we asked him what was in the suitcase, he said, I'm going to take my grandma's favorite snacks so that she can have them in Belize.
Wow.
So that's the brain drain that's happening, and that will happen, continue to happen in K through 12, and also that's already happening in higher ed. And I'll just start with K through 12. I think with the social studies rewrite, it's such a radical, they threw out what was already being taught and started from scratch, listening to far right non-academics. But what I'm hearing from experienced, seasoned teachers is that there's no way they're going to stay in the profession, that they're going to relearn everything and teach a deeply problematic curriculum, that they would rather retire or go work somewhere else. So that's one thing I'm hearing from social studies experts, that we are going to see a big exodus of K through 12 teachers. That's been happening. Is it even just the wages? Valence, it's on eggshells, not being able to teach the truth that finally pushes people to leave. Academic freedom is a labor issue. And then for higher ed, the same thing. I think that's very personal. I'm an academic. I'm on the academic job market this fall. And increasingly, I'm skeptical that I can find a job in Texas. Jobs are being destroyed in higher ed and academia. And there's already a lot of, especially faculty of color, are leaving the state. Literally, that is what they're doing. There was just a scholar that studies border surveillance that was denied tenure, and he was 30 letters of support, like my worst nightmare. And 30 letters of support from scholars, and then the president just vetoed that decision. So there's been a total takeover of higher ed, and I think what it means is that as academics, and this is what I'm trying to tell our fellow academics, we're in the fight now, and we got to get dirty. I don't mean dirty as in illegal. I mean we've got to get in. We've got to take part.
Yes.
That's the bright side, but I would wish it wasn't.
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, and one last thing to add. Texas employs about 3,000 documented teachers, and they're in constant brain drain because the federal government is now taking, where before they were taking 3 months, now they're taking up to 9 months to issue work permits. And so that absolutely disrupts their whole teacher when they have to sign contracts and things. So we have in Houston, we at FAIL are at least working with about 24 teachers who are not going to be able to go back and teach this fall because they haven't received their new work permits.
I want to remind everybody on two very important things as we're preparing to get dirty. The truth is that's what we need to do. We need to fight back. We need to, I don't want to get my colleague in trouble, but like the protests, the sit-ins, all of that stuff, like we can't really leave anything off the table. What your majority party in Texas is planning to do next session is revisit and reintroduce Plyler v. Doe.
Yes.
That is where children who are without status will be denied public school education. So we have over 5 million children in our public schools, whatever percentage of that is. Talk about brain drain and impact in our community. They tried to do this around 1980. Supreme Court said no. And the Supreme Court was very clear. They said, if an undocumented person's house is burning down, would you not send the fire department and see if they have status or not first? No, you would send the fire department. Why is not a child's life more important than a piece of property? The truth is, with the leadership and the party in power in Texas and really in the federal government, we have lost a sense of humanity. There is no sense of humanity. It's all about me. And that is how they practice, and that is the policies they have put forward. Those are the policies they're putting forward. They're going to come even harder this upcoming session if we don't flip some seats and really fight back through our voice, through our vote, through standing in, to all of it. Like I'm down for, we have to do all of it. The second thing is when you talk about the impact of the children, I in my home right now have 2 children who are not related to me. Mother is in a detention center recovering from breast cancer. They detained her at an immigration visit. Mom's from Kenya. These are American children who I just met about a month and a half ago, who now live with me, and we're trying to navigate this together, who are traumatized because they try to come home from school one day to see mom like they did every day, and they haven't seen her for months. And now we're prepping them for school, and we get a 10-minute call from mom from Blue Bonnet maybe once a week. And grandma FaceTimes us from Kenya once a week. These are not the only 2 babies that are facing this in our communities. This is what we are doing to our children under this president and under this governor. And so I want to remind everybody who works in these communities, something that it took us a while because mom's in the detention center. In Texas, there's one thing that we do right, I guess, is the authorization agreement for voluntary adult caregiver. And it's an authorization agreement that you don't have custody of the child, but you are able to take care of that child, make medical and education decisions until mom comes back and says, I want my child. But as mom got detained in our case, and there was nothing that allowed me to really speak on behalf of the children, it took a while for mom to get me the proper paperwork, and we're there now. So fortunately, we can move forward. But there's so many of our babies, our familias, who don't have this, and so as they're prepping their kids and educating them on what I do, si no regreso del trabajo, si no vamos a misa, me detienen allí, wherever, these agreements, and it's not just brown folk, it's black and brown folk, it's our Muslim folk too, our Arab folk, they're hitting everybody. And so it is very important that we all work together in our community to make sure that our parents are empowered to protect our children, because that is what we haven't really spoken about in all of the media and everything. The impact that we're doing to these American children, not even just American, right, but children for few generations to come, it's on all of us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Doe, yes, Lila versus Doe.
I don't work for money. I work to educate children, and a lot of us, if that happens, we will.
Yep.
You're going to see a mass exodus of educators that don't work for money. They work to educate the young, the ones that can't speak for themselves. And if we can't teach off, then we will not teach. We will walk away, and we will start our own privately funded. And you all have a lot of issues with those public dollars and those vouchers. It's just going to be a big mess.
And it won't come if we change this governor and those people in power in Texas. That will not see the light of day. But if we don't do anything about that governor and that legislature, you better believe it's coming. They did it. They tried it in Tennessee, and they're going to try it again here.
It's so important for us to vote. Let's please give our panelists a round of applause. And we do have a few folks who have already signed up to speak also. And if you want to speak before we leave, we're going to stay just a few minutes past 8. Please scan that QR code. For now, let's get Laura Gallier, Robinson Block, de Adira Arellano, and Conchita Reyes, por favor. If you could please go ahead and take a seat. Oh, yeah, that belongs to them.
Hello, and thank
Yes, so first we have Laura Gallier, and if you have 3 minutes, thank you for your testimony today.
Thank you. My name's Laura Gallier, and I am a resident of District 145, District C, and Senate District 15. So all of the people I vote for are already here and are listening to this. I'm with Pure Justice, and I have a couple of their talking points I want to mention, and then I have a few of my own. First of all, we went to, Representative Reynolds has left, but we went to Austin in the last legislative session to talk to him and other legislators, maybe you, Representative Simmons, as well, about protecting tenants you give them their application money, and then you find out that they had set criterion for exclusion to deny that application. And so we wanted a law to have that posted. If your credit score is below this, you're out. If you have a criminal record of this level, you're out, so that people know before they give that non-refundable deposit. That's one. End qualified immunity. That's 2. Outlaw law enforcement using unmarked vehicles and masks. That's 3. Law enforcement out of non-safe traffic stops, especially ICE and CBP, but also the state troopers don't need to be pulling people over if it's not a safety matter. Okay, we could save a lot of lives, not only of drivers, but of law enforcement by keeping law enforcement protecting us from matters of safety. Okay. And lastly, on the pure justice agenda, we want to ban the box on housing and employment, where employers and apartment complexes or renters don't ask what your background is for criminal, you know what I'm talking about. Ban the box. For me, my talking points are to put air conditioning in all the prisons. The state spends more on lawsuits for wrongful death related to overheat in prisons than it would cost to continue to finish the job of air conditioning the prisons. Would like you to somehow get rid of the requirement to show citizenship to vote. I'm not to register to vote. Sorry, I dropped my VDVR status because I don't want to have to figure out if somebody's got papers to register to vote. Also, I have lost 2 husbands already. I'm on my 3rd one. I have a lot of names. I can't prove that I'm a citizen. I can't. You know, my birth name, the audit trail is just way too long. And also, my friend Marie and I have been trained by the American Bar Association to be legal observers in immigration court. And one of the findings that shocked me is that when somebody doesn't have representation, when they've got a notice to appear, the court gives them 2 weeks to find representation. That's scary. That was scary to me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to Robinson Block.
Hi, my name is Rob Block. I live in the near north side. Representative Morales is my state representative. Adrian Garcia is my commissioner. I was gerrymandered out of Sylvia Garcia's district into Lizzie Fletcher's district, and Carol Alvarado is my senator. And if you all have not heard, there's a huge outpouring frustration with the brutality and anti-immigrant crusade by the federal government. Earlier today, dozens of young people were kicked out of the Houston City Council chambers, opposed to Houston City government's collaboration of HPD using administrative warrants. And so there's the surge of activism, and is it going to help us sweep progressive people into the legislature? I think that's possible, but the Democratic Party is not being very clear on where it stands on these policy issues. There were a number of people that voted for the Salinas amendments to have minimum amount of collaboration between HPD and ICE under the law. That passed something like 15-4. And then when Greg Abbott threatened the city of Houston, a lot of Democrats folded, and Ramirez, who I don't think is a Democrat, also folded. I don't think that progressive organization should be inviting council members Castillo, Martinez, Ramirez, Mayor Whitmire to speak. If you want to speak with moral clarity on cities defending our communities, a lot of Democrats have taken the wrong position, and they really shouldn't be in these spaces on these panels unless they're apologizing and creating policy change, reversing the Abbott Amendment and putting back in the Salinas Amendment. So, so that's the time to be morally clear, and people shouldn't have been invited to be at this table. And I'm not. If I wanted to vote for someone who wanted HPD to collaborate with ICE, I could vote Republican. So I don't like seeing people that are campaigning for my vote doing that, and I'm not going to vote for them if they keep doing that. So thank you so much for being here and caring about this issue, and we need to see y'all speak with more clarity on this and force the people that aren't willing to do that to pick a side.
Thank you so much for your candidness. I really appreciate it. We're going to move on to Conchita Reyes. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Representative Morales. I'm going to go really fast because I wrote a lot of things that I've seen on the streets. If no one knows who I am, my name is Conchita Reyes. I'm a community advocate. I'm also with LULAC Council 60, and I'm also boots on the ground. I see, I hear, I go to events, I go to businesses, and they tell me their story. So I'm going to share a couple of things. We focused on paying taxes and having permission to work, but really it's treatment. How do we treat our immigrants when they just want to work? So bad characters that threaten to call ICE, we need to do something about that. Bad characters that threaten not to pay our workers, We need to do something about that. Day laborers being picked up. Who do we know was picked up? In Pasadena, they have typically 2 vehicle auctions from their police department picking up the vehicles that they detain people. Now it's up to 5 auctions in Pasadena. I had a gentleman that called me. He needed his TWIC car renewed. Apparently, there was something he did when he was 17, and so they were having issues with it. That prevented him from working at the Port of Houston and also overtime. With one email from Congresswoman Garcia's office, he now has his TWIC card. People are feared. They're scared, and so they're self-deporting. They're afraid they're going to lose their assets, their property, and their children. So they are already self-deporting. I know 2 women from a restaurant that is self-deporting themselves today. School enrollment is going down. Northside High School typically has 1,500 students. It's down to 500. They were one of the ones that were looking at a chopping block. We already know a lot of our Hispanic schools are in the chopping block. I've seen in next door where a lady asks, I need a nice white person to pick up my children. I've seen people not wanting to grocery shop. I've seen and I've heard a young little boy in 1st grade talking to a teacher stating, because she asked him what he did this weekend, and he said, my dad and I went shopping for a shovel and garbage bags. And so the teacher inquired more. And he says, my dad showed me where he buried the money in case he got deported. These are the treatment. Let's forget about money, taxes, and everything else. The treatment that we're doing to other human beings. So I spoke last night and I reminded everybody in every race has an immigrant. That includes Muslim, that includes Jewish, that includes Hispanic, that includes Black, that includes the LGBTQ. And let's not forget, if they get deported, they will be killed. They will be killed from the countries they fled because they are LGBTQ. Having said that, I want to recognize our boots on the ground people like Fiel and others, because we witness these things and we've been trying to help individuals. But this is a massive effort, and it takes everyone from every level, from every race. And I beg y'all, talk to your parish, talk to your garden clubs, talk to whatever organization you're part of. It requires everybody to be involved. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay.
So we have Gracie signs. We also
Just we'll leave it for a question real quick. Does anybody have a question, comment, or anything? Okay. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Okay, and then we have one final panel. Gracie Sines, our former council member. Thank you so much for being here. Angel Vider Smith and Margot Jordan. Okay, and you want to start? Okay, we'll start with Gracie Sines. Thank you.
First of all, thank you so much for this opportunity to come and talk to you. As a former city council member, I know public session is always important. People come with gripes. They also come with solutions.
So I'm hoping that as we continue to move forward, we will have opportunities to offer solutions. One of the discussions was training and how do we bring that back to our communities. Remembering at one time, there was a group of corporate executives discussing whether they had a responsibility to educate the local children of this community. And I remember one of them said, you know, if we can't find them here, we'll just import the brain power. We have no responsibility to the children in this community. And it really caught me. I just couldn't believe that they would be saying something like that. They wanted to wash their hands because they could import whatever they needed to come in. What I am saying is those data centers, right now, you're going to be starting to regulate them. They need to provide dollars into our school systems and into our colleges for the training that they're going to need for employment. That's one. We're being gentrified in our community. Our East End community is being gentrified. People are losing houses. They're having to move out. Why? Taxes are going up. Who is the Harris Central Appraisal District anyway? I thought it was part of Harris County at one point. They answer to no one. Our taxes keep going up. I am fighting them. I'm an attorney by profession, and you would think I would know what to do, and I haven't been able to break it. It keeps going up and up and up. Our families who have lived there for decades are having to sell and move out. And where do they take $150,000 nowadays to buy a house or a home? Where are they moving to?
There's no place.
We have housing issues. We have several generations living together just to make ends meet. Now, Conchita already covered the situation we're in our community because of the fear of ICE. Children not going to school. Some are depending on others to buy their groceries. They're not going to the drugstores. They're not reporting crime. Some are in fear of going anywhere. Businesses are closing. Employers are losing their employees. People are self-deporting. They're moving out. And we as a community are hurting. I think you've heard it over and over again. We need to be bold. We need to change the rules on them. We need to come up with policies. Even if it doesn't fly, we need to at least put something on the table.
Mm-hmm.
We need to push back, and we need to fight again and again. Higher property taxes. We have, one of the things that I got so upset about this hearing was I proposed that it should have been lowered because I have to remove this huge tree that is dying on my property. And they said, oh, we don't count that. And I said, why not? Who do I complain to? You know how much it costs to remove a tree? And you know how dangerous it is for your property? You would think that they would understand that. We need to be more cognizant of what people are needing in taxation, in groceries, insurance is going up, gas is going up. Education, we need to fight back. We need to get our elected officials back to the HISD board, and I think we need it should be coming back. They're closing our schools. I demand that the property that is sold, schools that are sold from our community, that money should stay in our community.
Absolutely.
Let's go on and on. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you
so much.
so much.
We're going to move on to Angel Biter-Smith. Thank you.
And thank you all for having us and for hosting all of us and hearing from us. My name is Angel Biter-Smith. I am the chair of the Texas Progressive Caucus. We work with y'all a lot and look forward to supporting you in the legislative future. I wanted to kind of draw out the through line from what I've heard in the hearing today. I spent 10 years in academia, and we're talking about brain drain, and we're talking about the effects on our students, both in K through 12, but also, and we also heard from someone who was talking about how do we make non-immigrants care that this is happening to our communities. And what a lot of people may not realize is that your favorite higher education institution, whether that's UT or A&M or Baylor or Tech or somewhere out of state, we still love you. Whatever your favorite higher ed institution is going to have brain drain because of the pipeline being broken from our K-12 system, and also because of what we're seeing in the immigration sense. Non-resident students, non-citizen students pay out of state. And so it's not just our immigrant students in our communities that are losing out. It is students from other countries who want to come and learn here and then work here. And they fund these universities, which are already suffering extreme losses at the funding level from the current administration. So this is a two-prong attack on defunding your favorite university. And it's going to affect us for generations to come if we do not address it now. And so that's why a non-immigrant needs to care, because your favorite university is going to suffer in one way or another. And on top of that, the one other thing I want to add is the Texas Medical Center is the largest medical center in the world. And it is not just powered by native-born people. It is also very much powered by immigrants, and by powered, I don't just mean the surgeons and the teachers, I also mean the staff that does the cleaning, and I mean the nurses, the entire, and the administration has a mix of both citizens and immigrants. So thank you for your time, and thank you for listening to all this.
Thank you for that. Our final speaker is Margot Jordan. Thank you, Margot.
Thank you. This is my first time attending one of these ever. So I wrote down what I have to say. So my name is Margaret Jordan. I'm an Army veteran. I'm a mom of 5. And I'm also running for Texas State Board of Education for District 6. So I'm here tonight because our public schools are facing a crisis when it comes to our children's mental health. I think we all know that. And the Texas numbers are staggering because over 360,000 Texas youth are suffering from things like major depression, anxiety, yet over 70% of them are receiving the actual treatment that they need. Nationally, the recommended ratio is 1 counselor for every 250 students, but here in Texas, districts are stretched so thin that counselors are often managing double or triple that load. So how can we expect our kids to learn at this rate that we are expecting when they're not getting the mental health support that they need? They're overwhelmed with anxiety and trauma without the support system in the building. So my testimony is that why infrastructure is essential and actionable, and here are some solutions. So what can we do right now? I think prioritize funding. So I think we should stop treating mental health as an afterthought and a temporary grant line item. State policy must guarantee dedicated, sustainable funding for licensed behavioral health providers in public schools. Integrate early prevention, so embed some type of emotional resilience, character development, and self-esteem tools directly into the foundational curriculum before kids reach a crisis point. And I also think protecting classrooms from culture wars. So refuse to let state education policy be derailed by political optics when real children are suffering in silence. I feel as though when we invest in children's mental health and well-being, we are clearly making the world a better place. When kids feel better about themselves internally, this explains how they operate externally. So let's stop treating mental health as an afterthought and actually embed it into kids' curriculum. I know we are so worried about math and reading and science, which are all very important. But if kids do not feel good about themselves internally, how do we expect them to learn anything in the classroom? Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you to our panelists. And thank you to everyone who came today and spoke. Thank you to those
who are sitting here with me and staying until the very end. I really, really appreciate you. Listen, there's so much more to talk about. We could have been here all day long. It's just, we have people coming from different places and it didn't work out that way. But it's definitely an eye opener that we need to have more time for more people to come up and speak. And this doesn't end the conversation for sure. We are engaged individuals. That's why we're here. So we appreciate the conversation, and we want you to stay engaged with us. And I want to say in Spanish, a nuestra comunidad, gracias por estar aquí, por estar viendo. Yo sé que muchos están viendo por su teléfono, y sigamos trabajando juntos por un Houston más fuerte y un Texas con más oportunidades para todos. So thank you. Have a safe evening, and may God bless you all. And that's it for today. Thank you. Man, wasn't this amazing? This is amazing.
And I can take this one home, huh?
Look at this.